that the former Prime Minister of Ukraine, Yulia Tymoshenko, said this is not just a declaration of war on the Ukraine, but also on the U.S. and Britain. And she cited that the 94 Budapest memo that guaranteed Ukrainian security. Is there some duty here on behalf of the United States and the UK and the West to get involved now in what's going on in Ukraine?
Well, even very binding treaties like the NATO treaty and the Article 5 commitment, if you actually read them, it never takes away the sovereign authority of a country to decide when it's at war or not. So you can say this is a declaration of war against you, but only the United States can say when somebody's declared war on them and when they have to declare war back. So if you actually look at the Budapest Agreement, it's not a binding treaty. And even reading that treaty, it's fairly open-ended as to what the commitments are there. I'm sure Putin would actually say he's actually enforcing the treaty. He's stepping in to help the Ukrainians out here. So these are posturing political statements. They're not statements of international law, and they're not statements of what people are actually going to do.
Will, you showed that map where there are currently pro-Russian protests happening in the eastern part of the country. The big question now on a lot of folks' minds is obviously whether Putin is going to push his hand beyond Crimea and actually go into eastern Ukraine. And I would just sort of respond to that question with a question at this point. Why wouldn't he? He's already facing the sanctions. He's already facing the so-called ire of the international community. You see these cities. It is an entirely different situation when you have a local population that is requesting military. And we can't get into whether or not they're the majority or not. It doesn't matter. There are at least some in these areas of the country requesting Russian reinforcements for their security. That then gives them an easy toehold, the beachhead, in the eastern parts of the country as well, which would essentially allow them to cut this place up in half without ever having to go through much trouble.
I absolutely agree. I mean, Putin, his profile, he has delusions. He has delusions of grandeur. His profile, this man worked for the KGB. His formative years were spent trying to poke the eye of the United States. Why would we think he's changed? Has he had some sort of, moment of enlightenment where his character has changed? Absolutely not. So this happened in 2008 with Georgia. There's absolutely no reason to think that he's not going to stop.
So much for Putin, and I would say for me the idea